What if killing giants didn't actually get rid of them? According to ancient Jewish text, when the monstrous offspring of rebellious heavenly beings finally died, something remained, something invisible, something violent, something condemned to wander the earth. The Book of Enoch calls them evil spirits. And according to this ancient account, their story may have provided some ancient Jews with the explanation for something humanity has feared for thousands of years: demons. But is that actually what the Book of Enoch says? And what does the Bible say? Tonight, on A Veil of Crime, we're reopening one of the darkest files in the Enoch tradition: the death of the Nephilim, and what allegedly came afterward. Our investigation begins with Genesis. Genesis 6 contains one of the strangest passages in the Bible. It describes the sons of God taking women and mentions the mysterious Nephilim. But Genesis doesn't give us anything close to the elaborate story many people know today. For that, we have to look at later ancient Jewish literature, and particularly 1st Enoch. In the section commonly called the Book of the Watchers, the mysterious Genesis story becomes something much larger. According to 1st Enoch, a group of heavenly beings known as the Watchers descend to earth. They desire human women, but their leader, often rendered Semyaza, fears that the others will abandon the plan and leave him responsible. So the Watchers make an oath. Together, they cross a boundary that Enoch says should never have been crossed. They take human wives, and from those unions came enormous offspring, the giants. What follows isn't portrayed as some heroic age of legendary beings. It's catastrophe. According to Enoch, the giants consume what humans produce, but eventually humanity can no longer sustain them. Their appetite doesn't stop. They turn against human beings. Violence spreads. Blood is shed. The earth itself is portrayed as crying out because of what has happened. And the Watchers have created another problem. They have given humanity knowledge that Enoch's authors believed humans were never supposed to receive from them: weapons, sorcery, astrological knowledge, and other forbidden arts. The boundary between heaven and earth has been violated, and now judgment is coming. The heavenly response is brutal. In the Watchers narrative, God commands intervention against the rebellious angels and their offspring. The giants are destined for destruction. The Watchers themselves face imprisonment and eventual judgment. The rebellion is going to end, but there's a problem. The giants have two different origins. Their fathers are heavenly beings, and their mothers are human. They are portrayed as creatures born from a forbidden union of spirit and flesh. So what happens when the creatures like that die? According to Enoch, their bodies die, but something else doesn't. This is where we reach 1st Enoch chapter 15. Enoch receives an explanation concerning the fate of the giants. Because the giants originated from heavenly beings and human women, the text gives their post-mortem spirits a special fate. Their physical bodies are destroyed, but their spirits remain upon the earth. And Enoch gives those spirits a chilling designation: evil spirits. The giants are dead, but according to this ancient tradition, their spirits are still here. And Enoch doesn't portray them as harmless ghosts. These spirits bring trouble to humanity. They afflict, they oppress, they attack, they cause destruction. They continue creating problems on earth without needing food or drink, and perhaps most disturbingly, they remain until the final judgment. Think about what the Enochic story has just done. The Watchers explain one source of corruption before the flood. The giants explain extraordinary violence upon the earth. And after those giants die, their spirits provide an explanation for continuing supernatural evil. Their bodies disappear, but the evil doesn't. This is where we need to separate history from internet mythology. You'll sometimes hear the statement, demons are the spirits of dead Nephilim. If we're talking specifically about the worldview presented in 1st Enoch chapters 15 through 16, that's a reasonable shorthand for what the text is describing. The spirits of the dead giants become evil spirits operating upon the earth. But if someone says the Bible teaches that demons are dead Nephilim, that's different. The canonical Bible never explicitly gives us that explanation. Genesis doesn't say it, and Jesus doesn't explain demons that way. The New Testament doesn't provide a straightforward origin story identifying demons as the spirits of dead Nephilim. That specific explanation comes from the Enochic tradition, and that distinction matters. There's another misconception we need to clear up. In Enoch's story, the Watchers and the Giants are not the same beings. The Watchers are the heavenly rebels, and the Giants are their offspring with human women. They receive different punishments. The Watchers are condemned and imprisoned, and their giant offspring die, but the spirits associated with those dead giants remain active upon the earth. So within Enoch's worldview, the evil spirits aren't simply the fallen Watchers themselves. They're connected specifically to their hybrid offspring. That's an important detail that often gets lost when these stories are retold online. Now the case gets even more interesting. Imagine living in the ancient world. People experienced disease, violence, mental and physical suffering, natural disasters, war, death, and the phenomena they believe had supernatural causes. Where did evil spirits come from? Why were hostile supernatural forces tormenting humanity? Ancient cultures developed different answers, and the Book of the Watchers offered one extraordinary explanation. There had been a rebellion. Heavenly beings crossed into the human realm. They produced offspring that never should have existed, and those offspring died, but the consequences of the rebellion survived them. And that creates a fascinating dimension to the flood story. Genesis presents the flood as divine judgment against a world filled with wickedness and violence. Enoch expands that world dramatically by bringing the Watchers and Giants into the explanation for Earth's corruption. But if the spirits of the Giants remain afterward, then destroying the Giants doesn't completely remove supernatural evil from the world. The flood can destroy bodies, it cannot destroy spirits. And in Enoch's narrative, those spirits remain until a future judgment. There's also a cruel irony in the Watchers' punishment. They descended because they desired human women. They produced children, but they aren't allowed to simply watch those children flourish. Their offspring are destroyed. The Watchers themselves are condemned. And according to the larger narrative, they even attempt to obtain mercy. They ask Enoch to intercede for them. Imagine that. Beings who supposedly came down from heaven now asking a human being to carry their petition upward. But their plea won't save them. And that's another file we'll open separately. So you might be wondering, if First Enoch isn't part of most Christian Bibles, why does any of this matter? It matters because Enoch gives us a window into the religious world surrounding the development of early Judaism and Christianity. Ideas don't develop in isolation. Ancient Jewish writings discussed angels, evil spirits, judgment, and the mysterious events of Genesis 6 in ways far more elaborate than the few verses contained in Genesis itself. And Enochic traditions were ancient. Fragments of Enoch were preserved among the Dead Sea Scrolls, so when we're studying ancient Jewish and early Christian ideas about evil spirits, Enoch is an important piece of historical evidence. Not because every ancient Jew necessarily believed it, and not because Christians must accept it as scripture, but because it shows us this explanation existed. And this is where a veil of crime separates the evidence from legends. Enoch does not prove that every modern paranormal story involves a Nephilim spirit. It doesn't prove modern claims about giant skeleton conspiracies. And it doesn't establish that every demon mentioned in later Christian tradition is literally the ghost of a Nephilim. Those are additional claims. Our evidence is much more narrow, but honestly, the actual ancient story doesn't need embellishment. A group of heavenly beings rebel. Their offspring terrorize humanity. The giants are destroyed. Their fathers are condemned. But the spirits of the giants remain behind, hostile, restless, and awaiting judgment. That's disturbing enough. So what happened to the Nephilim after they died? If we're asking Genesis alone, we aren't told. But if we're asking the Book of Enoch, we get a chilling answer. Their bodies perished. Their spirits remained upon the earth. And those spirits became forces of evil afflicting humanity. In other words, within this ancient Jewish tradition, the giants are dead, but their evil survived. And there's one more piece of the story that may be even darker, because the giants weren't the one who started all of this. Their fathers did. The Watchers crossed the boundary. And one figure in particular was accused of teaching humanity things it was never meant to know. His name was Azazel. Weapons, warfare, forbidden knowledge, corruption, and a punishment that ends with him bound in darkness. That's the next file we'll open. If you want to follow the investigation through the Book of Enoch, make sure you subscribe to A Veil of Crime so you don't miss the next case. And if you enjoy these historically researched dives into ancient mysteries, biblical history, true crime, and the stories hiding in the shadows, you can support the channel by buying me a coffee. It helps me keep researching, creating, and reopening the stories history refuses to let die. Because sometimes the body is destroyed, the evidence is buried, but the story refuses to stay dead. Until next time, keep looking beyond the veil.